Testing the microphone to make sure it's on. I'm leaving that in. Screw it. Well, hooray, hurrah, and welcome to the John DeLong Show, episode number 17. Welcome to your weekly dose of the Monday morning nonsense. Come on in. So glad that you could join me. Very happy to have you here. Looking like a jam-packed episode. Got a lot of stuff to talk about today. Of course, horrifying situation in Florida on Valentine's Day. Also have some porn-related topics to talk about. So, send the kids to bed. And also, I'm going to get excited about Liverpool Football Club today. All that, I'm maybe going to have a guest on. Just waiting to find out for sure. If we do get that interview in time in order to get it into this episode, then you'll hear a chat. I'm John DeLong, by the way. Haven't said that yet. We're a minute and a half in. Want to thank everybody who listened in last week. One of our most downloaded episodes yet. Last week's episode of the show, which is weird because it wasn't a typical John rants type of episode. I was pretty lethargic and out of it last week. So I don't know. I'm glad you enjoyed it. And hope that you enjoy this week as well. Should just say, right off the bat, wasn't able to get the planned guest on the show, so we won't be talking about the post this week. I still hope to do that soon. Just schedules haven't really worked out. Of course, I'm still working, and schooling under my crazy schedule, and just, getting that to sort of vibe with somebody else in terms of having a 20-minute conversation can be difficult. Certainly in terms of getting something laid down for a podcast. So that's not going to happen this week, but like I said, hopefully soon. All right, so I'm going to get right into sort of the horrifying scene that went down on Valentine's Day in Parkland, Florida. As I'm sure you're aware now, if you have turned on any type of news or passed a newspaper stand, a lone gunman, former student at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High in Parkland, Florida, opened fired with an AR-15 assault rifle, killing 17, leaving at least 14 wounded. These are students, they're staff members. It's just fucking awful. Here's something that I want to go ahead and put out there. If you want to help, if you're in the area, donate blood. You can donate to a local charity. If you're not in the area, you can give via GoFundMe. And you can also, very importantly, especially if you're an American, you can reach out to your lawmakers and tell them that enough is a fucking enough. I'm going to get on my soapbox here for a couple of minutes. I did a little bit of research today. So, as I mentioned, the gunman who I've decided I'm not going to name because I just don't think it's worth it. He used an AR-15 assault rifle. This is a semi-automatic weapon that is sold to folks in Florida who they can just pick it up at age 18. You don't even have to be the age of majority in the United States in order to get it. You can just pick it up at age 18. A handgun you need to be 21 for, but a semi-automatic assault rifle you can just grab off the shelf at age 18 with as much ammunition as you want, and with the minimal background check that is required federally in the United States. wherein the only things that would flag you for not being able to pick up this sort of rifle is a domestic assault or other violent crime violation on your record, or for you to have been institutionalized or deemed by a court mentally unfit in terms of your mental capacity. Now, this goes nothing into saying that somebody who feels that they need an assault rifle for personal use at that age, that in and of itself, to me, should tick off some alarm bells. I'm not saying that the right to bear arms, that wanting to be a gun owner immediately makes you a bad person, immediately makes you an unstable person. I've never wanted a gun myself, but I get it from an aesthetic point of view. I get it from a, shooting is fun in terms of going to the range and all that sort of stuff. I've done it before myself. And there is something, immediately, there's something immediately satisfying about shooting at a range. I can understand that sort of side of it. So this kid had been expelled from the high school a year prior because he was a violent person, because he was assaulting his girlfriend, or there's a bunch of different reports that have come out as to why. But ultimately it seems, and this is coming straight from the mouths of people who were there, who survived this shooting. He is, very sadly to say, that we have a stereotypical school shooter, but he was a stereotype of a school shooter. He would be what you would expect him to be, based on what this awful crime was. So this is the thing that is driving me up the wall. Immediately afterwards, of course, you see Governor of Florida Rick Perry and the President of the United States, Tangerine Mussolini, getting on their Twitter accounts and saying, "Oh, thoughts and prayers," and this was a disturbed individual. It was a disturbed individual who had a fucking gun that you put into his hands, more or less, by not regulating guns in a reasonable and sane way. Like I said, I don't believe that gun ownership makes you evil or a bad person, or that you shouldn't be able to bear arms. I just think that gun lobby-backed senators, congressmen, the President of the United States, the Republican governors in the United States, these people are bad faith actors who are going to say to you, "Oh, well, there's nothing that could have been done. He was just a bad hombre. He was just a bad guy. He was mentally disturbed." Fuck right off. First of all, President Trump decided to roll back the sort of background checks that would have flagged a guy who allegedly wrote on YouTube that he wanted to be a school shooter, but they couldn't prove it, so it doesn't end up on his record. Like, there should be a fucking check that says, hey, he's actually been investigated by the FBI for making incendiary comments on social media. We couldn't prove it for sure, but maybe we should do a little bit of extra due diligence on this motherfucker. Offering their fucking thoughts and prayers. No. Offer some legislation. Regulate guns more strictly. Like I said, I did a little bit of research today. I was only able to find 2013 statistics because you'll understand why. So in 2013, the population of the United States, 323.1 million people. So the combined population of the UK, Canada, Australia, France, Japan, and New Zealand, because I was like 5 million off or something like that when I was adding this up. Anyhow, those 6 countries, they end up being about the same number. I think it's a $1 million people difference in favor of the 6 countries. Same number of people in those 6 countries. In 2013, like I said, I couldn't get more complete data because I had to go with 6 countries in order to get the same population. In 2013, the total combined gun homicides in the United States, this includes mass shootings, it includes domestic incidences, it doesn't include suicides. The total gun homicide rate in the United States was 11,208 gun homicides in 2013. In those 6 nations that I listed, again, the United Kingdom, Canada, Australia, France, Japan, and New Zealand, in 2013, 348. I wasn't able to get full numbers that were more recent for the 6 countries in order to give you a sense of same number of people living in more economically developed countries that have similar cultures in terms of the pop culture that they engage with. The difference being those 6 nations have some gun regulation. The United States does not. The countries that have less gun regulation than the United States, you start to see gun violence go up even more. There's a direct line between just not taking away the freedom to bear arms, not taking away that right, but just curtailing it in the times where it makes the most sense to curtail it. There's a direct correlation to seeing less gun violence. Thoughts and prayers. Stick them up your ass. Do something. Absolutely boggles my mind that in 2018 we're still having this argument. And honest to God, this may actually be the legacy of the Trump White House. Is that finally people were so fucking fed up gun violence in this country that the people of America actually rise up and they elect somebody. They elect a Congress, they elect a Senate that's going to actually stand up to the NRA. It's going to actually stand up to the minority of gun owners who don't want there to be these sorts of background checks, who don't want these sorts of curtailments to gun ownership. Good God. I don't understand the NRA on this one, to be perfectly honest with you. They want to be a gun ownership organization. You would think, to me anyhow, that you would want to make sure that the bad actors get the fuck out of there. That you don't have people like this shooter in Florida, like the shooter in Newton, Pennsylvania, like the shooter in Las Vegas this past year. You'd want to do something to make sure that your product, your tool, doesn't end up being used for these awful atrocities. If you were smart, it's the NRA though. They are smart, but they're just, fucking awful. Anyhow. I'm trying to keep myself level-headed about this, but 17 people. Most of them kids. One of them was the football coach and one of the security guards who got in the way. Took something like 9 bullets. Died in hospital a day later. It's upsetting and it's disappointing. You're offering thoughts and prayers, you so-called Christians. One of my girlfriend's sisters posted this on my Facebook. James 2:14, prayer is an important component for Christians, but it must be accompanied by some action. Thinking really hard and praying really hard isn't action enough. That works for you if you're into the prayer thing. Good on you. But just like you can't pray away cancer, you have to go and actually do something about it. You can't pray away gun violence. I'm sick of seeing politicians try to appear that they give a shit, when really, every single one of these people who are saying thoughts and prayers, but it's absolutely impossible for us to have done anything to prevent this, they're taking millions and millions of dollars from the NRA. And that's just the way that it is. All right, that's enough of that. started off hot.